Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Your Little Castle show. If there was anyone that could ever give me an edge in life, I would want to know what that is. Please welcome Larry Hagner. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
He's the dad edge, and been through life, been some struggles in life like all of us have. But you have come up with a way to give men and families and work together to prosper on this little planet, to make it through the hurdles that we all must overcome. I mean, hopefully, a lot of people do. I feel like I mentioned this, but not everybody watches every show. I was in a coma, lucky to survive, pull a ventilator out, lot to overcome. Boy, I wish I had maybe known you back then. Maybe could have got. But we came through it. I was fortunate. I had two parents that are both educators. That helped a lot. But not everybody's got those kind of resources right next to them, especially. But when you can find somebody that can help them with those kinds of things, to overcome these challenges in life, Larry, that's what you get to do.
That's what I get to do. Yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm the expert on it. The reason I started this, man, is because I just want to learn. So that's
why. I understand that, and as a matter of learning every day with how we deal with life and how we overcome that, you've kind of developed a process here to help people.
Yeah.
And you've got an incredible following. We're going to show all of his fun stuff. Instagram, 100 and something thousand. Facebook, 114,000 something followers, fans, and people that do appreciate what he does. So we're going to get into that and share with you some of Larry's secrets here to be happy on this little planet. With that, we'll give a shout out to our sponsors, Carroll House Furniture, Amy and my buddy Brooke. They have found a secret to be successful too. Brooke has been on the show, but they sponsor our show. Brooke had been a guest on my show many times in the past. I said, hey, would you like to sponsor us with our new show here? We would love to have Carroll House Furniture be part of it. So they are, because you like nice things in your little castle. Brooke liked that. I showed them, yeah, we kind of amended that. Come on, we'll talk about it next time. But everybody's got their the nice things they like, but you got them in your little castle, which is our show, obviously. And then we are sponsored by the Flowers team, the USA Mortgage. They do an awesome job. If you need a place to live, you got to pay for that place. These are the guys you go to. Get a hold of our friends over there at USA Mortgage. With that, I'm going to put up on the wall. You've got some powerful information here, and where do I start? We're going to go to, we've got your website and thedadedge.com. I'm going to put that on the big wall behind us, and it just, now we've got it here, everybody. So the struggles are real, and you don't have to face them alone. And Larry's going to talk to us about that. So Larry, again, welcome to the show. Tell us, why did you start this? How did you get into this? What led you here?
So this was actually never ever meant for me to do full time. It was back in 2011, and Jessica, my wife, and I had been married for about 8 years, and we had two boys at the time. We had a 4-year-old, we had a 6-year-old, and to be honest, I was I mean, if you looked at me on paper, everything looked like we were good. I had a great job. My wife Jess was a stay-at-home mom. We had 2 healthy boys, but I found myself just really floundering when it came to marriage, when it came to connecting with my wife, when it came with patience with my boys, and it really just came out of those struggles. Just really came out of I didn't know what to do. In fact, with my childhood, I had a laundry list of what not to do, but I didn't know what good really looked like. And often what I've described it as is it's like going to Home Depot and buying the barbecue pit, and then you open up the directions and it says, here's 100 ways not to put this together, but everything else, best of luck, you're on your own after that. And it can be a struggle, and that was my struggle.
Yeah, I was thinking about how we could discuss this from a perspective that I think is kind of emerged with regard to the evolution of our country, our planet, and that is, and my mom would argue this, I think, but the roles have changed a little bit. In our own country, for a long time, it was pretty much homemaker, and the guy who goes out and uses the mail. And now in the last 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, women do everything men do, And then we're supposed to go, oh, wait a minute, but what, should I say something? When do I step in? What do I not do? And it's made it a lot more challenging for men to figure out their role. I don't have a problem with it either way. I'm glad women contribute as much or more than we do, more most of the times I've seen. everybody knows my mom. She's conquered the world, got the building named after her. So she's done a lot to help people, to educate her. But how do you fit that into what we're doing here? Us guys, we got to figure it out now. It's always evolving. What do you see that you most often have to help men with in dealing with this in our planet and how we get along here?
Well, I think men really have three roles, and I think that's to provide, to protect, and to lead. And I think if a man can do those things, then he's in the right spot. He's in the right sweet spot. But I think that there is a lot of confusion. I would say one of the biggest things that we at the Dad Edge we help men with is marriage. So like everybody knows in the United States the divorce rate is about 51% now. Yeah. But here's the crazy thing. What people don't know is the statistics of people that actually stay married. And John Gottman, who's been like the pioneer in marriage for 40 years, and he has studied thousands of marriages. And one thing he found just through surveys and studies is you can actually divide up into three camps, the people that stay together and where they're at. So like, for instance, camp one, and everything is divided up oddly into 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So okay. 1/3 of marriages that stay together, they can actually identify their relationship is working. Like the communication's on point, the intimacy is there, the partnership, the parenting, like they really wouldn't change a lot. And then there's the next 1/3. This is camp two. Camp two is more like they've settled. They're just existing. They've settled. There really isn't a whole lot of connection. They're not really divorcing, but they're not really thriving. They're just kind of like right there in the middle. And then the last 1/3 is they're completely and totally disconnected. They live two totally separate lives pretty much. They're under the same roof. And the two reasons they don't get a divorce is because it would be too financially devastating or the perception they have to stay together for the kids. So we're always so focused on this number of people who are getting divorced. And what we don't realize, the people that stay together, only about anywhere from 12 to 15% of people that walk down the aisle can actually identify their relationship as working. And there's one common denominator with that. The common denominator is the couples that work, they understand that they have to learn together, grow together, learn how to communicate with each other, conflict resolution, parent together, all these things that quite frankly, like society sets us up of like, oh, you'll figure it out, don't worry, best time of your whole life, right? I know you were a kicker, you played baseball, you had coaches, you had to learn those skills to do that, right? But when it comes to marriage and parenting, it's like, hey, best of luck. You'll figure it out.
Right. No, good point.
Yeah.
I mean, so often what do we have other than the model that we grew up with?
Exactly.
Our own parents, right? There was nobody coaching us to give us specific instructions. And I got in trouble with an ex a long time ago because her parents had been divorced and my parents were together. And she said to me, "You think we're going to get divorced because my parents got divorced?" And I didn't say that, but I mean, I knew that she had some other hurdles to overcome because that's part of what she had seen. And so then how do you even operate in a method outside of that? What are we dealing with in our culture today? How is it that we find 51% of the marriages end in divorce, and how do you circumvent that?
So I really think if you really look at a marriage, I mean, it's, you don't get married because you want to get divorced, right? You get married because you found the person you want to be with, you want to have kids together. But what happens, what I've seen, especially over doing this work now for almost a decade, is that what most marriages do is they start off really, really strong. Then we start having kids, and then we start to become more parents. Parenting takes the front burner, and being married takes a back burner. And over time, that just sort of like erodes the relationship. Now, I'm not saying parenting is bad, but what happens is the neglect of the relationship. We stop growing together as a couple. We stop learning how to communicate together as a couple. We stop learning how to parent together as a couple. And it really, I think, derails a lot of our marriages because we don't, and it's not because of the kids. It's actually because of just the time and attention that we're just not giving the relationship anymore. And in our minds, I mean, we feel that that's the right thing to do because we're parents now.
Yeah, and how do you also at the same time manage a career, right?
Yeah.
Is that the other big piece that goes into that?
Yeah.
And the guy's going, oh, I want to conquer the world and still be successful, and I'll get to the kids. And I don't know how many times we've seen that. I have a quadrant that I've drawn for this kind of thing. You got parents that are really involved and pay close attention to the kids. You got parents who are really involved with themselves but don't pay attention to the kids. And then you end up with kids that get too much attention, and then kids that are in good shape. So how do you break that down? And what are the odds? I give myself a pass from the perspective that I don't have any kids.
Right.
That I know of. No, right. I'm joking. But no, I'm sure they would have tracked me down. But that is, how do you manage that to be successful, and the odds are kind of stacked against you.
Sure.
Because
Yeah, they are.
if you got the kids that are good, great, but the relationship may not be good. But you got the kids that are bad and the bad relationship, oh boy, then you got a mess. But if you got kids that are great, but the parents are not so good, and then you might have both of those being a problem. And I'm just like, well, 25% chance. I'm glad I didn't do it. I mean, I think about what it would be like to have kids. I think my parents spent a lot of time, whereas I see a lot of other parents get distracted with their careers and the like, and too concerned. And tell me, why is that become such an issue? And is it go back to what we were talking about before, when it used to be just, somebody that stayed home and managed the more important part with the house, and the other guy just went out and made, and now things were more evenly distributed, and there wasn't so much chaos, and now things have changed. How does that all play out today's culture? It's
hard. It's really, really hard. If you look at, and I'll just speak to men in general and more parents globally, but I think with men in particular, we're out, it's in our DNA. We want to provide, we want to do well in the workforce. We feel a tremendous sense of urgency to provide, financially for our families, and to put food on the table and a roof over our heads. The thing that sometimes trips us up, though, as men, is that we get so in that camp of providing that what we don't realize is, but we have to provide physical affection, emotional, quality time with the kids. But the biggest gap that I normally see is I don't know exactly what to do with that time, when to do it, what to say, how to communicate with my kids. You can actually, and all of us are so focused on the quantity of time, right? It's like, I've got to give more time. Here's the thing though, if we know exactly what to do with that time, you actually don't need nearly as much time as you think. Now, I'm not saying don't spend a lot of time with your kids. Spend as much time with your kids as you possibly can. But when you're in that window of time with your kids, know how to talk to them. Like, one of the things that we teach is, how do you create an environment of psychological safety with your kids? In other words, where they're going to come and talk to you, where they're going to come and talk to you about their big problems. They're going to come and talk to you about things that are heavy for them or burdensome for them. And being able to receive that information and then to parent and lead them effectively. And that's not easy. I mean, I didn't grow up in a house, and I'm sure none of the viewers did either, where your dad pulled you aside, your mom pulled you aside and said, hey, let me teach you how to create an environment of psychological safety so your kids will talk to you about stuff. Like, we're not taught that stuff, right? We wing that stuff. And usually it's the opposite. We create these homes where there's a ton of guilt and there's a ton of shame, and kids shut down and parents don't know how to communicate. But here's the cool thing about this, is that the intention for most people, for most parents, is there. They're like, man, I want this. Like, I really want this, but like, how do I get it? And that's the gap. Well, yeah, that adds a difficult existence. I make the joke passively. This is a humor, everyone, but God got a little bored with the dinosaurs, and then he said, hey, I'm tired of watching stars and nebulas and black holes in the space. I'm going to create some excitement. We're going to have humans. It's going to be great. And we're going to have men, and we're going to have women, and go get it. And just all the other excitement that he created on our little planet, because it's not as smooth as the nebulas and stars turning in, gravity and everything. It seems very systematic. We've got minds of our own, and we've got to conquer this world in a way that we best figure that out. And when you don't have any kind of guidance, this is why people come to you, I guess, isn't it? It is. And I understand firsthand what it's like walking in the shoes of that person. I mean, I grew up with a very challenging childhood. I mean, my mom was married 3 times. She dated several men throughout my childhood. It was like a revolving door of really toxic men, to be honest, and fathers. I didn't even have a relationship with my biological father until I was 30, and that happened by accident. And we've got a great relationship now, but that background literally gave me all these different things of what not to do, like a laundry list of things of what not to do. And I'll tell you, there was nothing more confusing, and I felt incredibly lost, because I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to do all these bad things, but I don't know exactly how to create a connection with my kids. I don't know how to be this really graceful, patient father. I don't know how to constantly pursue and court and love my wife effectively, and to cultivate this marriage that I've always wanted. I had no idea how to do any of that stuff, and I hated that life. I hated the first 10 years we were married, like I felt completely lost. And truth be told, like I still get lost, but I have so much more awareness now, and all the guys that work with us, they learn these things as well. And what I've noticed is the answers that guys are looking for, to create this extraordinary marriage with their wife, through communication and connection, intimacy, to create more of a connection with their kids, where where dad is now the go-to, like for, things that go wrong, man, dad's like the go-to. He's the safe guy to go to. When it comes to leadership, how to effectively lead your kids from a physical leadership, from spiritual, from emotional, from mental, all these different things that are so important. And to give these guys that pathway, and it's not a perfect pathway, but to give them more answers and more resources, that's what the entire platform is about. And it's a learning platform. And by the way, yours truly, the reason I do this podcast, the reason I have 1,200 podcasts under my belt, is because every single time I do a podcast, I interview somebody, no matter who they are, man, I get to learn something new. And I'm in that student seat. Like I always say, the podcasting and hosting your own show like this, it is a front row seat to like the most amazing education out there. It really is.
Yeah, that's why we kind of enjoy sharing methods and messages from people like yourself, because how did you develop a platform where you ended up with 114,000 followers? So many people would love to have that, because that seems like when you've got that much support and that many people following you, now you've got a real edge on your career and providing for your family. But that's not an easy task to accomplish. And so that's why we want to bring on guys like yourself. So everybody pay attention here. Larry is sharing with us some of the secrets, trade secrets, if you will, about how to do this. And that's what we're here on the Your Little Castle show to provide. So if you are a business owner, or you have a local we're focused on small businesses to have as guests on our show, and you like us to help and work with you, we would love to promote and inspire and share and get some attention drawn to your business. So get a hold of us. I'll even put up on the wall here on the wall. I want everybody to see Larry's page, or Facebook page. So take a look here on the wall. There's his Facebook page, and then Larry's website, and you can tell all kinds of great information there. This is the kind of stuff you need to pay attention to, because you can really get some great information there. And then we'll give you a little bit, take a look back. This is our website, and you can see some of the guests that we've had here. And if you'd like to be a guest on our show, let us know, because Dawn is in studio today with us today, and she's my right hand. She pretty much runs everything. I just show up for the interviews. But if you feel somebody needs to be highlighted, deserves to have a spotlight put on them, let us know, because we want to highlight those people like yourself and help them gain a little bit of attention and put something together that really helps them highlight who they are, making a difference on our little planet.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and that's what we are glad you're here to help people understand. All right, well, I've kind of just scanned through some of this stuff. We're skipping through some of the basics for what I want. But you've been doing this now for 12 years, 9 years as a podcast. Tell me the process there, and what was the evolution? How did this thing get started? Why did you continue to go off this path?
Well, so like I said, the first several years of my marriage and being a father, it was really, really tough for me. Like I said, I had a great paying job in the medical device industry. I was selling surgical supplies and working with surgeons, and I was traveling, and on paper it seemed like everything was good, but there's a ton of pressure in that industry. And add to that, I didn't have the skills to be a great husband. Like, I mean, my wife is in studio today. She'll tell you, like, I was a terrible communicator. And same thing too when it came to kids. Like, I'll tell you this, when I first got married, I made myself 3 promises. And those 3 promises were, if I get married, I want to be married once. And that's it. Because I understood what it felt like to come from a broken home. I'm going to be a good dad. And I'm never going to strike my kids in anger. And what I can tell you is I broke 2 of the three out of those promises. So I'm still married, right? Even though the first part of it was tough, but I wasn't the best dad. I wasn't a bad dad, but I wasn't a good dad either. I was just sort of like existing, and I wasn't the best on patience. And the reason Dad Edge even got started was because it came from a horrible, dark moment. You know, my 4-year-old, who's now 16, I had a horrible day at work that day. I lost a huge customer. It was going to impact our income for the next 12 to 18 months. I was in a super stressed out state of mind. We were also getting ready to move. So I was like packing up his playroom and the kids' playroom and everything else. And one night, you know, my son's the same night, my 4-year-old stepped out of line and I spanked him without even thinking. I just reacted and I spanked him. And as soon as I spanked him, like I realized that, like, I was like, oh man, I did not want to do that. And then he fell. He actually lost his footing and fell. And I was like, oh my God. And then I went to go pick him up. And the thing that got me, man, was when he looked at me, he like put his hands up as I went to help him up, like, don't hurt me. And that sucked. Like, that was horrible. And I knew in that moment that something had to change. And I didn't know what it was. And I went into my office that night and I was emotional and I was really upset. I was really angry at myself because I was hit a lot growing up. And when I saw his face like that in that moment, like I saw myself as that kid, because I used to like hate it when guys would hit me. And I went in my office that night and I went on Facebook, because that's what you do as an adult when you have a bad moment. You want to go distract yourself with everybody else's life. And I saw a button in the left-hand corner. It said create a page. And I don't know why. I'm a very spiritual person, but I feel like God had his hand in that night. And I clicked that button and said, what do you want to name your page? And the words, The Good Dad Project, just rolled off my heart onto that keyboard, and I named it that. And I was the project. I was like, I need to figure this out. And I just started looking at other areas of my life where I was decent. You know, I had been doing martial arts for several years. I'm like, well, why am I okay at martial arts? Well, I'm good at martial arts because I have an instructor, I have a coach, we have a curriculum. I learn with community and classmates. You know, I'm also teaching it to lower belts, right? So there's like not only learning, but there's mastery and there's practice. You know, could the rules of fatherhood and marriage be the same? And what I'll tell you is, now doing this for the past 12 years, what started as a Facebook group, then turned into a blog. And then in 2015, I just got tired of writing. I was like, I think I just want to talk to people. And I bought a microphone, started podcasting, and now we're 1,200 episodes in. And I joke about it. I was like, I wrote out 10 shows, and after that, I was on God's Good Humor. And we've just been blessed with amazing guests like Matthew McConaughey's come on, and UFC legends like Frankie Edgar, and John Bernthal came on the podcast. I just interviewed Chris Daughtry. And what I can tell you is, interviewing all these like high level celebrities is one common area where I don't care who you are, but we all put our pants on the same way when it comes to navigating fatherhood, navigating marriage, communication, patience, leadership, all these things that we're talking about. Like, these are the questions that men have on their mind and heart. But at times we're too ashamed to raise our hand and say, I think I'd like some help with that. You know, because it's hard for us to do that.
Wow, yeah, we've covered a lot there, and that was some good insight, because it is difficult, especially as men. We are so challenged to be strong and go after. When you started talking about the community stuff, that's when I put the hat on. I said, that's what we're trying to focus on here. And you've really brought in some high-profile people that obviously want to share your message and partake and contribute a little bit along those lines. You've got some great testimonials up here, too. I've got to share this a little bit with everybody, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Larry, and if you can see on the wall over here, this is the Dad Edge, Larry Wagner's Instagram. Hagner. Did I say Wagner?
Yeah, that's right.
Hagner. Did I say that right?
Hagner, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll put that up for everybody to see there. But here it is, and Larry has done a great job. But take a look at some of these testimonials. You've got some guys. These are men who you've worked with and helped over the years, and they're giving you live testimonials here that they've actually recorded, that sharing a little bit about what they've learned and what they've been through, and how you've helped them benefit and make a better place on this little planet. But of anybody that you've talked to, can you give me an example or two of a couple who you feel like you really helped?
Yeah, over the past, ever since 2016, since we started the Dad Edge as a group coaching platform, we've had over 4,000 men come through our program, and man, we have had some unbelievable stories. But there's one that really comes to mind, and this client, I'll leave his name out. He still does life with us. I will never ever forget this guy. So in order to be a part of our group, you have to apply, and then you'll schedule a meeting with us. I'll never forget meeting this gentleman who's a business owner, and he popped on the Zoom call. He was dressed professional. He had a lot of accolades in the background on his wall, and he just looked successful but sad. And he jumped on, and we'll call him Jim. And I said, Jim, it's nice to meet you. He said, it's nice to meet you too. And I said, well, what brings you here today? And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, I just sold my company for $42 million and I'm 42 years old. And I'm like, holy cow, man. I was like, that's awesome.
Everything should be going great, right?
Yeah, I was like, that's awesome. I was like, congratulations. I was like, why are we talking? And he just like put his head down and he just paused. And I was just like, what's about ready to happen here? Like, what's he going to share? And he popped his head back up again and his eyes, man, were filled with tears. And this story, I think, really hits home to like, you can chase all your dreams as you want. You know, don't come home with a wallet full of money and a house full of strangers. It's one of my favorite quotes. And this man really knocked that out of the park. And he said, Larry, he goes, I have 3 sons. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and I've been married for 14 years. I came home to tell my wife because she knows how hard I've been working in the business for, almost 20 years. And I told her, I was like, guess what? We sold the company for $42 million today. And I thought she'd be overjoyed and we were popping champagne. And instead she looked at me dead in the eye and says, does this mean that you can finally do donuts with Dad at the kids' school? And he just, it was such a mirror in his face. And she said it very respectfully, and very, very nice, but also called him forward. And she's like, Jim, your boys don't know you. We know that, and you know that, and that's not what you want. Our marriage isn't the best. I'm glad that you've sold the company for $42 million, but what would be great is if we had you. And he said, after she told me that, I went to your website, I scheduled a call with you. And that guy, he's been in our group now for 1.5 years, and he has walked from his company. He's now doing another company, but he's creating so many boundaries in his life to have time with his wife. His boys, man, love him now. Like, he's learned so many different skills. And I just saw him this morning on our Friday call, and every time I see this guy, man, he's just like beaming. It's a total transformation from the guy that I sat with over a Zoom call who told me he sold his company for $42 million, but looked absolutely gut-wrenched, devastated, to now, he's got the relationships that he's always wanted in his own life.
Hopefully everybody here's taking some notes. We've got our pencil here, remind you, everybody. Take note of what we're talking about here. Get a hold of Larry, thedadedge.com. That'll lead you, people can get to your podcasts. They can see your Instagram and your Facebook. Combined over 230,000 followers almost. Really having an impact and making a difference on our little planet. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more. Larry has a lot to offer, and we're going to hopefully have him again back here on the Your Little Castle show. But he's impacting the world, making a difference, and we want to see more leaders like that. If you know somebody deserves to be on our show, let us know. Get a hold of us. Go to yourlittlecastle.com, and we'll talk to you some more about being a guest on our show. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned. Giddy up.